Testing 1, 2, 3. What's up, folks? Hopefully you can hear me. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do things a little bit different. Here I am, folks. How you doing on this wonderful, incredible, amazing Wednesday? Great shows today. I'm starting the show off by showing myself here, the camera and all that, because, y'all have been helping us, and we've made some serious changes to the setup, and I'm very happy with. There are a couple things, couple of kinks, like, for example, yesterday. Test, folks. Did you hear my little intro there? I was just telling you guys that I want to avoid, we're still ironing out some final kinks. If you remember, at the beginning of most of my shows, I get this exact same issue, which I was able to recreate. So at least I didn't play the intro and all that. And it looks like I may have fixed it. Look, we're gonna figure some of these few wrinkles, okay? New year, same complicated business. Good thing we fixed that buffer. It's just one of these kinks, okay? If we could fix this buffering thing, which we will, we'll be laughing, as the Canadians say. Right on. Just wanted to start off a little different. For that reason, I think we're rocking and rolling. Thanks for the patience, folks. I think we got to rock that intro.
Isn't he Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
𝒔𝒐𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby.
He's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You're the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border, and then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on America's soil. So he became the anchor baby. You don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right?
Hello, I'm the American Anchor Baby, and this is my show. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. It's been a fun day today on the Bond Network. I'm still, in fun mode. What the heck am I going to talk about? No, I got a few things to say here. We'll get into a couple things here, and your calls, of course, as always. You can call in the show, 888-775-3773, 1-888-775-3773. If you're somewhere international, you can call as well. Just hit me up with Skype or WhatsApp, one of these VoIP services. Let me know if you use a different one and it works. That'd be nice to know. What's up, everybody? Survivor. That's a name I've never seen. Delighted to be here. Kilo, Mr. Pink, Chris. What's up, Hake, Renee? Yes, we will be having our men's forum tomorrow here at Bond. We'll be doing men's forum, first of the year. You don't want to miss it. I mean, those are great. We're going to have a good time. Hey, Nugget Man. Canadians say that? Yeah, but you're one of those, aren't you one of those francophones, Nugget Man? You wouldn't know anything about this. You wouldn't know anything about... And then, you've never heard that, Nugget Man? A turn of phrase. It's to say everything's fine. If we could iron out the kink with this caching buffering issue, we figured out the board for Hassan. Once we figure that out, then we're laughing. But you're a francophone, aren't you? You wouldn't know anything about that. I love the francophones. What's up, everybody? You talk about swamp people. Kevin Howe, I see you in the chat. Welcome. Games for Rec, TDS. What's up, Kilo Alpha Tango? Sweet Peach, what's up? I'm a francophile. I'm a Francophile. What's up, Patriot Girl? Yeah. Swamp people. Some of you guys were giving me some crap. You guys are giving me some stink for what I said. What I said yesterday about British people may possibly were swamp people. Now, I may have been inaccurate in my statement. So I left it alone. And I could still be wrong now. But I want to show you a little bit of what I found, because I wasn't totally wrong. I knew I wasn't just saying nonsense. And if you don't remember, I had a conversation yesterday with Donning Armour. Always love conversations with all people. Donning Armour brought a nice conversation. We're talking about race and identity and many things. And so I want to show you that I may not have been totally wrong about this swamp people stuff. And we're Britophiles here too. Oh, I didn't mean to dox anybody, you know. I don't know if that's a secret, Nugget Man. My bad. But hey, c'est la vie, right? Zut alors. Hey, Nugget Man, what does alors mean? I forget. A-L-O. Zut alors. What is that? I guess I could Google that. Alors, allons-y. Anyways, shout out to all francophones in the chat. On s'en calisse. Is that a bad word? Oops. Nope. Here we say on s'en calisse. Right on. What's up, Carver? I see you in the chat. Always hitting me up with a super chat already. Thank you for that. It says, they were definitely heathen, barbaric swamp people. Hey, we're going to get into it a little bit here. So I don't think I'm totally wrong. These people were swamp people before they had Christ. Now, I don't think that's fair to say totally. But I see you. Thanks, Carver. Carver says, Nick gonna promote Manson. That was some fun conversation we had today. All this Manson talk because of my super chat yesterday? I can't remember, Renee. I forgot why I even came up on the show, but it was great. Right on, y'all. Oh, okay, y'all, you guys already know that about Nugget Man? Okay. Whew. Anyways, welcome on this fine Wednesday. Week's going by fast. We're going to have ourselves a Nick stream this Friday. Don't miss it. We'll be taking off. First flight of the year. Hopefully it's not a Nick stream landing. We don't want a Nick. Hey, what's up, Bill? Hopefully it's not a Nick stream landing. One of those good old Nick stream landings. I heard there was a Nick stream landing. IRL. An IRL Nick stream landing. That means in real life. Somewhere in London. You hear about this? I mean, since I just happened to talk about it and I have the link. And we're just loose and goosing today. The goose is loose. Big time, but we're having a good time. The goose may be loose. The goose was loose for these pilots, apparently. Weather was tough. What can I... Ooh, Bill with the fan action. Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you. It's like I'm a new man. I feel the wind in my face. Bill just saved my life. It's like when you have hot mouth. You know what hot mouth is, Bill? It's when you're about to throw up. You got to go do Fallen State. When you're about to throw up and you get all that saliva, and you just start producing a whole bunch of saliva, get some wind on you. Get some wind on you, and you might be able to survive a little longer. You might be able to survive that cab ride a little longer and not mess up that fine taxi driver's car, huh? Hot mouth. That's a term that most people are surprised. It seems like only one I've heard. But now you learned something. It's when you salivating right before throwing up. Well, maybe these passengers had hot mouth. When they were landing this plane in London, I mean, it's topical, right? It's fun, it's topical. It's just, I happen to have the link. Bouncing away, doing a soul plane landing like on Nick's stream. Show us what's going on here. There's an echo on this. I forgot how to... Oh, no. Anyways, so look at them bouncing. Nick stream landing, like they full on bounce. The like nose wheel, like full on bounce off the ground. And they came back down. What the heck? I mean, I've had some pretty intense turbulence on a plane ride. I've had some pretty intense turbulence, some pretty intense landings. But that's something special. But I don't like all this Nick Street. I'm self-slandering Anchor Baby Airlines. Only I'm allowed to do that. We have a large legal team. So don't go around repeating what I'm saying here, because this Friday's landing is going to be amazing. So don't mess around. There was one that landed on the hood too. Right on. Anyways, that's what happened. That happened. Is this more of this, is this affirmative? No, that was just weather. That happens. Nugget Man, thank you. Alors means then, Nick, but it depends on the context. Generally, it means then. Thank you for that. Little Francais. What's up, Doom Jesus? Female and weird pilot, presumably. Come on, let's not be so judgmental. Weather hits even the most experienced of pilots. Sometimes they gotta land sideways. It's crazy. I've shown you some videos. You know what I was thinking? I took a flight to Mexico. I was thinking too. I was thinking that when it landed, I was thinking about how much I think I might hate being a pilot. I know, okay, look. I'm your captain, the American Anchor Baby. But I'm thinking about, I think I would hate being a pilot because I would do the whole thing. Take off, I'm paying attention, we got the whole thing going. Okay, got all the steps, we landed safely, 100+ souls on board. The white people are clapping. I don't know why people get mad at that. Why are you clapping? What's the big deal? Maybe it's strange. The white people are clapping because we landed nicely. It's not an extreme landing. And then I'd sit there and I'd be like, nice, we did that. And then I think to myself, then I got to do that all over again? No, I don't know about y'all. Maybe I'm primitive. Man, as amazing as it is to fly and the invention and all that, everything, you're not meant to be in the air, right? Everything's trying to keep you on the ground. It's too stressful. I'd probably have fun. Probably cool. It would probably be cool. I'm just thinking, it's like, wait a second, I got to do that all over again? Jeez. But anyways, some of you are talking about the swamp people. I want to get into it. Y'all are funny. In the chat, what is Kevin Howe saying? Where are you? Kevin Howe, you should just read these early pagan authors from Greece and Rome. You'd be shocked by how close it resembles the symbolism used in Christianity, especially the Greeks and their archetypes or planets. Yeah, that may be true. I'm really not knowledgeable like that, okay? So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. And I see your calls coming in. That's 888-775-3773. But this is at least a little bit of a hey, the Anchor Baby wasn't entirely wrong here. So maybe some of your admonishing in the chat was unfounded. Okay, some of y'all thought I was ridiculous when I said the British were swamp people. And that may not be a fair total description. We'll get into that. But the memes don't lie. The memes haven't lied to us yet. The memes have not lied to us yet. Here's a little Wojak meme. But it's a little meme. You see this Roman soldier surrounded by these blue-looking people. These blue-looking people with like pipes or something. Here, we're going to need the image. We're going to need the image by itself, Reddit. Give me the image. Okay, fine, Reddit. You don't want to do that? Here it is, the meme. And what the text beneath it reads, The Britons, Britons, okay? I may not be knowledgeable, so this may be very well not even be British people, but I'm reading what I'm reading, okay? So follow me. The Britons, the Britons inhabit desolate, swampy plains and possess neither walls, cities, nor tilled fields. They do not touch the fish, which are found in immense and inexhaustible quantities, and instead live on flocks, wild game, and fruit. In the forest, they subsist upon bark and roots. They dwell in tents, naked and unshod, possess their women communally, and raise their children in common. Their form of rule is mostly democratic. Ooh, maybe democracy ain't all that. We need to defend our democracy. Their form of rule is mostly democratic, And given that they are fond of plundering, they consequently choose the boldest men as rulers. And strangest of all, they are able to endure hunger, cold, or any kind of hardship by plunging into the swamps, where they exist for many days with only their heads above water. See, okay, come on, guys. The anchor baby wasn't completely unfounded, huh? This was a quote. This is a quote from Cassius Dio, 209 AD, Anno Domini, Roman historian. The swamp people, the Britons. Anybody know about the Britons a little bit? Anybody know anything about the Britons? How do you say that? The Britons. The Britons. Desolate swamp people. Like, that's just an interesting thing for unpacking that, first of all. This is a quote from this Roman historian. The thing that interests me is the democratic part. I mean, it seems primitive and all that, the description of how they possess their women and raise their children in common. And it's funny also to hear some of these academics. Wasn't it Hillary Clinton or someone that said that it takes a village? Or was it Michelle Obama? Some woman in the media or whatever said, raising children, and it takes a village. And that whole thing, it makes me think of communism. And you might cringe, but hey, don't get boomer cringe when you hear communism. That stuff's evil. Come on, guys. That stuff's evil. You know, the stuff that Marx made and all that stuff. I know people see communism differently sometimes. Okay. So it seems a little primitive, but I like this also part, unpacking this democratic part, where they are fond of plundering. They consequently choose the boldest men as rulers. It reminds me a little bit of something I was saying about, I don't know, this kind of, I was commenting on Andrew Tate some time ago. And I was saying that Andrew Tate, red pill, and this kind of, what seems to be a new way of dealing with women in the culture. I'm being unclear maybe, and I hope I'm not confusing you, but maybe you somewhat understand what I'm getting at. There's this kind of new wave, and it's hitting a lot of young people. A lot of young men are watching Andrew Tate and stuff like this, and they're seeing how he deals with women and how they're conquering the women really sexually and in other ways that we can get into. And I was commenting on how Andrew Tate and the ideologies and stuff that's coming out of that world, they're setting up the world for the return of the warlord, of the boldest of men as rulers. Like these, apparently, as Cassius Dio wrote about the Britons. It almost makes sense. It really isn't a new thing. It's a return to a more violent and primitive world. And in this violent and primitive world, the people like Andrew Tate, they're teaching us how to live in that world and showing us how to dominate in that world. But the truth is, it's a tough life. It's a tough world, and not everyone will dominate. Only the strongest will win. The warlord will win. He who takes the resources. He who takes the women. It's not really it is a weak world we're living in, but it came from Christianity. And we are enjoying decadence, and we're enjoying that society now as it dies. But at the same time, that society, the Christianity and all that created that society, there's a lot of good to it. It created a lot of amazing things that we still, despite in the decadence, are living in relative safety and wealth and all that, away from danger. This is not to say that Christian world is not tough. No, it's the toughest, in my opinion. But it's a different world. The Christians had to carve that world out of that primitive, barbaric world. They had to carve it out, and it cost blood. It cost lives. It cost a lot. And they carved that world out of that primitive warlord world. So it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. What Cassius Dio wrote about the Britons and their democratic style of life. Strangest of all, they were able to endure hunger, cold, of any kind of hardship, plunging into the swamps. Hey, pretty. What should you call that? Not enterprising. Pretty. That's pretty interesting. Okay, to survive like that. Hey, let's plunge into the swamps. We're gonna be total swamp people and survive. It's tenacious. You know what I mean? You got to respect that. Again, I see your calls. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. 888-775-3773. But the memes don't lie, okay? I was onto something here, right? Cassius Deal wrote it in 209. So don't get mad at me. Okay? It's not a pejorative. It's just history. Okay? It's just history. I'm not hating on the British. The British or the Britons. Are the British now the Britons? The Celts, some call them. The Celtic people. There's some connection there at least, right? Ireland, Scottish. The English. The Celts eventually actually became Christian. Animals are artisans, asks Epoch magazine. Epic magazine? Animals are artisans. The Iron Age of the British. Were they animals or artisans? And, you know, I'm showing you the meme, but that's not fair. Once I look into it a little bit, there may be a little bit of a fight in this history. They may not be totally like backwards swamp people. But I'm reading some of these articles, right? I'm reading here History Extra, right? And it's this article. It's about the genius of the Celts. And this article is specifically talking about the Celts and the swamps and those people. And this author here, Graham Robb, writes about the genius of the Celts. And he wrote a book to argue against, to challenge the Roman characterization of the Celts as primitive hooligans with terrible table manners. And I'm reading this article a bit, right? And this guy, Graham Robb, and again, this is coming from not someone who's an expert on this. I'm just kind of like maybe seeing patterns and stuff and kind of putting stuff together. I may be totally wrong. You're welcome to call and correct me. But Graham Robb talks about the Celtic people, and he essentially doesn't disagree with what the Romans were saying. But he just says, I don't like what they said about the Romans. They're not primitive hooligans. They invented all many. Look at all their inventions and stuff. And guys, don't get mad at me for saying this. It kind of feels like how the blacks sometimes try to rewrite some history. Actually, those primitive Africans, they're actually really smart. And they're not saying they weren't, but usually this comparison comes when they're trying to compare the West, right? And what the West created, the Western peoples, the Europeans. And they'll say, actually, the Europeans, they got that from the Africans. They got that from the indigenous tribes. Oh, you know your political system? Yeah, the indigenous people of America, they were doing that first. The white people just stole that. They were actually geniuses. And then they never figured it out because white people kept them down. And it feels a little bit like that, Graham Robb. Graham Robb sounds a little, to me, it's just a little bit. I'm not saying the Celtics were like the blacks. I'm not saying the Celtics weren't amazing in their way. It sounds like they were pretty tough. But it feels a little bit like some of that rewriting, like, actually, they were geniuses. They were swamp people, apparently, and they shared their women communally. Not very Christian. Doesn't sound very Christian. You know what I mean? Not that they have to be Christian. Like I was saying yesterday, I think all peoples, all races, they have a uniqueness to them, and they should be preserved. I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't say what the Americans did to the Japanese was good, gutting them of their faith and culture. And I think it was a death blow to them. I think other things too. I'm not blaming the Americans. And really, it's not the Americans. It's like the American State Department and the government. Really, the atheist government. Let's be real. That outlawed Japan's like religion and stuff, Shinto or whatever. And now they suffer, even though they came back as an economic power, they are suffering from a similar loss of their mandate to heaven, their faith, what made them unique and what made them them, because they're dying. Their birth rates are just as low as the West, peoples of the West. It's kind of an amazing thing to think about, just to me. So I'm not saying they have to be Christian, the British, but hey, they went and adopted it. Don't get mad at me. They did that. They adopted the Celts. They adopted Christianity. And Bob's, history went the way it went. But bingo, bango, bongo. And you got Western European monarchies dominating the earth and everything that happened, okay? I mean, the story writes itself. the genius of the Celts. I'm sure there was some genius. I'm sure there was some genius in the indigenous peoples and Africans, whatever. Are you following me a little bit here, though? Is this really just a segment of I wasn't totally wrong, chat? Maybe this is what this segment is. I wasn't totally wrong, chat. Shut up. Celtic Christianity refers to the early medieval Christian practice that came about in the 4th century. Ireland, before Christianity, they practiced a religion as complex as the Romans with many gods. It grew during the 5th and 6th centuries as one of the most spiritual churches in the world. Right on, Christian Celts, and what came after you. I could be wrong about some stuff here. It's okay, help me. But pre-Christ, post-Christ, I mean, isn't that interesting? Come on. You guys know that I don't deny the differences in the races and all that. But in terms of the conversation I was having with Donnie Armour yesterday, where does race matter there? It seems like there was something deeper, don't you think? It's pretty deep. The Celts went Christian. Anyways. And it's that loss, kind of what I was saying yesterday, the loss of this mandate of having your faith, who you are, what brought you where you were, where you are, all these things, okay? Things I may not even understand myself, but hopefully it's got the juices percolating, you're thinking, you're wondering, and you're leaving it as an I don't know if you don't know. It's just something to think about. Because this is a loss. This is an emptiness in America. Birth rates are low, a dying culture. Why do you want to see your life, your world around you die like that? And blacks too. I was talking about with Frederick yesterday. This same sickness is within the blacks. The birth rates are low. They're dying. And I may have been wrong about the number of blacks. I told him to do some homework. But okay, the birth rates are low, Frederick. They're low, okay? They're dying. And some of these figures about, the actual number of blacks, 40 million in America. It's like, okay, yeah, but how much is that immigration? When you look at the birth rates for white people, even that number is skewed because so many Hispanics are counted as white. I bet you something like that's happening with blacks. So it's not totally fair to go with those figures lately. It's a mess. But when you look at black Americans, their birth rate is dismal. They will not replace. They're not replacing. They will not, unless things are turned around. It's not looking good. Baby bust, fertility declining the most among minority women. You know, I say this to, I guess, make you think about the what's underpinning it all and what's affecting all people. When we focus on blacks and crime and what's going on there, you should have a little air and space and see how the very same things that are happening to blacks can happen to all people and are in parts when you really think about it. And you can have some understanding between each other and see how we're all really affected by the same thing. Yeah, some are leading the way to destruction, as they say, but have some of that space to so that you can really understand. What's happening to black Americans is happening to Americans, to white people. And I said this before, it's in my opinion, I see it's a little bit of a shame to see blacks and whites turn away from each other even deeper and deeper as the years go on in this country, where they were supposed to have a different destiny, in my opinion. It was supposed to be different. It was supposed to be amazing, right? These two peoples in a world where historically, when different people come together, they fight. They get proximity and difference in peoples causes war, right? And you start understanding why why we remain separate and all that. Separatism, and you can understand that. I don't disagree with those that talk about having their own place of their own people. But it was supposed to be different. The blacks, were positively affected by Christianity and they were working with whites and I think about Booker T. Washington and what he was telling blacks to, you guys learn so much in the field and all that. It's time to be professionals in your own right and work with whites, etc. I may be inaccurate in my quoting and all that, but You following me a little bit here? So it's a little bit, in my opinion, a shame. It was supposed to be hand in hand against those enemies of Christ, anyone non-Christian and non-American. And maybe even within America, they'd have their own worlds. But it would all work for the Union. Anyways, maybe this is all romanticized anchor baby ramblings. But it was supposed to be different. And the framework was there, thanks to Christianity, in my opinion. Love. Just some things I was thinking about. A couple of things I was thinking about. The Britons, the British swamp people and all that. You know, something I was thinking about. I wanted to go deeper. I had something to think about. Something else I was thinking about. I was going to say something about Mexicans. It relates to all this, but maybe I'll remember later. I see your calls. I might as well rock some of these calls. Thank you so much. Let me just make sure. Yeah, appreciate that, Carver. Yes. And checking my Rumble. What's up, DJ 2020? My supporters over there. Says, can't identify as, create an illusion of ego. The idea of build thought, egregore in Greek. You're going to have to explain that one for me, DJ 2020, but always a pleasure seeing you in the chat. Appreciate your support. Yeah, what do you guys think about that? Nick is in his thoughts. All thoughts are lies. That's fair. But what are you thinking about that? What do you think about what I just said? The British are still swamp people. What's up, Dark Rose? I thought they were Christians, Dark Rose. They are now new in Christ. Okay, being ridiculous, but I'm saying somewhat of a point here, huh? In my view, Christianity brought on the Dark Ages. The early Christians were like Antifa or Muslims, destroying, burning every bit of history, smashing statues. The Renaissance was a return to traditionalism. That may even be true, Kevin Howe. I'm not even doubting that Christianity, in the name of Christianity, a lot of just militant, non-Christian, just worldly stuff happened. But anyways, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know, Kevin. I side with the Christians, man. I side with them. Even if they were militant, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was just Christian in name only. But when they came over and they said, you know what, no more child sacrifice, no more this communal living, sharing your women, raising children. You got no walls. You got no walls. Where are your walls, man? You got no buildings. I don't know, y'all. I gotta side with the Christians. Or is that just Roman? Anyways, a little food for thought, maybe. Nick, I got it through a good source that rockin' guitar this morning was played by Maze. Really? That's funny. Anyways, let me see what y'all are saying. What do you guys think about that? African geniuses. What's so funny about that, Nugget Man? Amazing. Right on. Well, let's rock these calls because I want to show you some other things I've been thinking about, I think that's a good idea. I got Mark, Los Angeles. Thank you for your call, Mark. I got you on the air.
Thank you. Happy New Year, and thanks for taking the call. Big Happy New Year to you too, Mark. Thank you. A couple of things. I wouldn't go to Mexico if you paid me. The cartels run it. If you're a white man, you're in danger of being kidnapped in a cab. If you're a Negro, God only knows what will happen to you if they catch you messing up down there like they do up here. So my question is, how was your experience down there? It was let me just say it was great, but that's because it was like insulated. I'm not this. I wasn't this. I went to a little. It was a. Is it fair to call it a town called Tinguindín in Michoacán? Now you got to understand, I wasn't this tourist traveling in taxis going through Mexico. No, I took a flight to Guadalajara, and then we just took. I guess the most dangerous part. We did take a taxi
Nice guy, though. All the way to this town, and we only stayed in this town, really. We did travel around a little bit. And you're right, it's dangerous. That just can't be. The people there admit this. And it's a dangerous place. I had a different experience than most, though. It's a little insulated in that I went with I had an inn with a family that was from this town, and everybody in that town knew this family. I spoke Spanish. They called me El Colombiano, so they didn't see me as a white guy. And it was all cool. So it's definitely not. It's not an experience that most would have, and I wouldn't recommend it. I had an inn, like I said, and
yeah. Mm-hmm. Now I've been to Mexico, but it was before. The last time I was there was before 2006. You know, and that's about the time the cartel started getting out of hand. I never went back after I heard all the news reports on what these animals were doing. Now, I didn't hear your show yesterday. So this business about the British being swamp people, I don't even know what that means. but I will say this: the Brits of old were good patriots, calm patriots. I'm talking.
Who are you talking about in this case? Because I'm not.
Well, I guess. You said something about the British or swamp people. Is that
the early Celts before the 4th century?
Okay, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, so I'm talking about there was a Roman historian, if you didn't hear it, that spoke about these early Celts and Britons, as he wrote, Britons. So you're talking about British patriots who, if you could help me out, time period, and help me out here.
Well, the 50s and 60s. For example,
this is way past.
Pardon me?
This is way past the people I'm talking about.
Well, sure.
Post-Christian, post-Christian fair.
Right. I don't know about those Celtics. I've heard about them. Don't know much. But I do know that the Brits of the 50s and 60s, you had a lot of patriots. You had Enoch Powell. You had Sir Oswald Mosley. They were all patriots to keep Britain white. Now, of course, you know, Britain is falling just like the U.S. We're being invaded by the Third World. There's no future in an invasion by the Third World. Yeah. We have no future. And you mentioned about, I heard you say earlier today that some of the Negroes who were pro-civil rights were talking about, the white man copied from all these colored people.
Yeah.
Okay, my retort to that would be, what colored country has a space program? What colored country put a man on the moon? What colored country invented all the vaccines? And I'm not talking about COVID now, but all tuberculosis and all these. It was white men. Some of them were Jews. I'm not going to deny that they were Jews, but Jews are considered white by the enemy. That's why the Jews in Israel are having such a problem. The idea of a white homeland would be a great thing, but the problem is that's basically what the Jews did in Israel. They tried to create in 1948 a Jewish homeland, and look how that's working out. As long as you have coloreds in your midst, then you're letting them into your country. You're doomed for failure. And that's even Israel, who tried to cut out and carve out a little homeland for the Jews. I don't know if they're going to survive or not. I can say this. If it wasn't for U.S. aid, they would have been gone a long time ago. The state of Israel would have been wiped off. I'm not saying I advocate that.
Right, no, I think it's just a fact what you're saying. It's just a fact.
Yes, and if it wasn't for U.S. aid, they'd crumble. Well, I can't believe the number of Palestinians that we've allowed into this country. When you see these demonstrations on TV with thousands of these demons, I mean, it's scary. It really is scary. They're the only people that I know of in recent times that could carry the swastika and praise Hitler and not be criticized for it.
Oh, sorry, who?
I've seen the Palestinian demonstrators.
Yeah.
I've seen them carry swastikas, and in Gaza, I've heard that Hamas is handing out copies of Mein Kampf. So, I mean, this is what we're headed for. Now, I don't agree with.
No, it's an interesting point you bring up. If I could just jump in quick, because it's true. They're going around with swastikas. You had a white person with a swastika, it's over. all over the news and everything. And maybe it's a shallow point. Maybe I'm wrong about this. You tell me what you think. But I think it's because they're not white. And so people look at these Palestinian protesters with a swastika, and I don't think they go, oh, my God, Hitler, white people, Nazi, get afraid. They just think, oh, look at these dumb people, idiots. And maybe...
Well, they admire Hitler because
Right, but the people who look at the Palestinians with the swastikas and they don't have the same reaction that they do when they see a white person with a swastika, I think they're showing that they see them as less. They see them as less intelligent or something, like, oh, they're just dumb Palestinians with swastikas.
Yeah, that could be, but and I'm not for the Israelis. I don't support Israel, not at all. As long as you have clowns in this country like Ben Shapiro, I would never support Israel. Ben Shapiro is a Zionist, and he's a fraud in every sense of the word. He's not a conservative. I saw his debate, if you want to call it that, with Jesse Lee Peterson.
Oh, you saw that?
Pardon?
Yeah, no, go on. My bad. I cut you off.
I was just going to say, I saw the debate, and the more I listened to that, the more I knew Shapiro was a fraud. And he is a fraud. When things get bad in this country, with this invasion at our border, if we don't get Trump back in, and it might even be too late if we do, all people like Shapiro are going to do is fly straight to Israel. And it'll be the hell with the U.S. He loves Israel more than he loves the U.S. And I don't like him. I don't think he's a conservative. I think Jews like him have hijacked the conservative movement. And it started in 1964 with Barry Goldwater when he ran as a conservative. Now, he opposed the Civil Rights Bill, but I don't know if he would have.
Before you move there, I want to hear more about Barry who?
Goldwater.
Barry who was that? Can you just briefly explain?
He was the Republican presidential nominee in 1964. And Romney's old man, Mitt Romney's father, who was as big a fraud as Romney, opposed Barry Goldwater. Nelson Rockefeller, another Republican who ran for the 64 Republican nomination, was another elitist globalist traitor. The only good one was Goldwater, and he was Jewish, but he opposed the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Act on those terms, but he wasn't a Christian. And I don't even know how much of a
And you're saying it's because of him what started?
The what would you call it? The Rhino movement. Really? The Republicans who are actually Democrats with an R in front of their name.
Not America First.
Pardon me?
They're not America First.
No, not at all.
All that.
Not at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would say Barry Goldwater started it. Richard Nixon was really a rhino in every sense of the word. Richard Nixon was not a conservative. Now, he got more votes than any other presidential candidate in history in 1972 when he ran against George McGovern. I supported Nixon, but it was because McGovern was a communist. He was similar to what Biden is, except Biden's brain is damaged and he's a demented man. But his politics were mirrored McGovern. I don't know if you ever heard of George McGovern. He was far left radical. Yeah, he ran for president in 72 and lost in a major landslide to Nixon. The white majority spoke. But instead of going to George Wallace, who I supported, the Northern conservatives went with Richard Nixon. And so that's how we got.
But you originally did support Nixon.
No, I originally supported Governor Wallace.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I heard a lot of people supported Nixon, which is different from what we're told today about Nixon.
Well, no, he
a lot of America did.
He opened the doors to Red China. Before Nixon, it was a Cold War with these criminals in China. Now they're taking over the world. Thank you, Richard Nixon.
Oh,
and but the same people, how could I put it? The same mentality that attacked Goldwater 60 years ago is the same mentality that's attacking Trump today. For example, Romney's father hated Goldwater, and he was the governor of Michigan. He was a scoundrel just like his son. And Rockefeller, I'm sure you know who that is.
Yes.
He's a global elitist from New York. He calls himself a Republican, but he's one in name only. He hated Goldwater. But then Nixon came on the scene. Well, he was around before 64. At one time, Nixon was actually good. He was catching communists. He worked with Joe McCarthy in the during the 50s to try to nail these commies that were working in our government. And we have many in our government today. We need Joe McCarthy more than ever. But I really don't think there's any hope. But getting to the point here.
That's so interesting. I want you to get to your point. I just want to...
No, the only point was here that Nixon was probably the first rhino Republican. And it's gone. Even Reagan. I mean, Reagan had problems. He gave amnesty to 3 million illegal aliens. That's not a conservative tenet.
No.
And that's the thing did you see the interview with Jesse Lee and Shapiro?
Yes, I have seen that. I mean, Shapiro still owes Jesse a lunch.
Oh, he'll never get it.
And I don't know if I've come to the same conclusions. I don't really think about Shapiro like that. But I remember seeing that interview, and I'm thinking, how can you not see what Jesse said? Like, if you say you're a conservative and everything that Shapiro was saying about himself and conservatism and everything in that interview, how could you not see what Jesse was saying about Trump? It was just quite interesting, for sure. And for me, it showed me a division amongst conservatives and conservatism. It showed me this division that exists with how do I put it? It's just like some are real and some aren't. Some just care about well, this is I don't know. They care about legalistic and just stats, and as opposed to someone who really exemplifies the spirit of America, conservatism.
Well, if I could,
if you just to quickly finish, the split for me, it showed me that there was conservatives that had, like, I guess you could call it like a fear. They saw someone talking too tough, or they didn't like what he said. It was too mean.
Or he's racist.
Or racist. And to me, it showed me how many conservatives are actually just liberals.
Well, here's the thing. I got to say this. I don't want to forget. There's two different kinds of conservatives. There's a neocon, which is Shapiro, and then there are what's called paleo-conservatives, which are the real McCoy.
Like Patrick
Trump.
Buchanan.
Patrick Buchanan.
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz.
Let's go.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. These are true.
Oh, really, Marjorie?
True conservatives. Shapiro and the neocons are basically warmongers who will give amnesty to illegal aliens. They'll talk one way when they're running for office, like Nikki Haley. She's the latest rhino pick from the fake Republican neocons. So there's a difference,
totally.
Nick. There's the neocons who are not really conservative. They're mostly warmongers like Liz Cheney, who consider Israel their homeland. I'm speaking of Shapiro on that one. And then you have the paleo-conservatives like President Trump, Matt Gaetz, Margaret Taylor Greene, and several of the others. Those are your real conservatives. And one last thing, I don't want to hold you up.
No, I don't want you to leave before I ask you a few things. There's so many things I want to ask you if you got the time.
I got time.
But go ahead. Say, were you going to go into something else?
Well, I'll make it quick. George Santos, the disgrace.
Oh, great. This is actually related to what I wanted to ask you. Go ahead.
Yeah. They were talking, and they go, he was talking about all the crooked politicians in America that he's got to know in his short time in office. And all the paleo conservatives, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, are taking no money, no kickback. Mm-hmm. But he mentioned Menendez in New Jersey, the dirtiest crook of all, Menendez. Mm-hmm. The Banana Republic, okay? Mr. Banana
I know
Republic.
Something of this, yeah.
Yeah, Menendez. He's got gold bars from Qatar, I believe, in his house. The FBI buzz. I'm surprised the FBI went after that clown.
Not America first.
Pardon me?
Definitely not America first.
No, Menendez is the enemy, but so is the FBI. Today's FBI. But so that's basically he was for this guy that I just mentioned that was censored.
Santos?
He wants to be head of ICE. He wants to head ICE if Trump wins. So he's not all bad. They could have got. Why didn't they get rid of some of these?
You're talking about Santos, right?
Santos,
the one they got rid of.
The one they got rid of. He was naming all the bad politicians. Right. And what about this pedophile island thing?
Okay, wait. No. We could get into that. We'll not spend too much time here. But listen, Santos. This goes into what I want to ask you. Okay, you seem to be you kind of making sense to me because it seemed like they just. They kicked him out, and it's like, why? Because, he took money or some stuff, which is like something that everybody does, but they're going to focus on this guy. And who did you see who they replaced this Santos guy with?
No.
They replaced him with a black woman.
A Republican?
A Republican black woman. Can you imagine this? So this is what I wanted to say, because you were talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't want to burst your bubble. Apparently she's a paleo-conservative, but she's all talking with Roseanne Barr, agreeing with her that men need to listen to women. The problem in the world is that men aren't listening to women. And Marjorie's all like, yeah. And then this with the Republicans and Santos and replacing it with this black woman. Like Jesse Lee Peterson was saying earlier this morning, I'm with him. We got to be done with Republicans. Like, they're replacing all the men with women. There's nothing paleo-conservative about that.
I agree, but the Republican voters overwhelmingly are seeing through this nonsense of the rhino. And that's why the vast majority still support Trump. Right. They know Nikki Haley is a fraud and a rhino, and Christie speaks for himself. I mean, I don't think I need to criticize him. Every time he opens his mouth, he criticizes. He's open for criticism. I do like DeSantis, and I love Vivek. I hope Trump picks Vivek either as VP or some high, if he wins, some high political office. Trump's saying that if he loses, I'm not allowed to say this, but if there's shenanigans again with the election and he loses, the stock market's going to crash.
Is that what Trump said?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Because they're expecting him to win. The stock market, the Wall Street people, so they're expecting Trump to win.
What makes you say that?
Pardon me?
What makes you say that? That the stock market people are...
I read Trump's report. No, Trump said it. He said if he doesn't get reelected this year, that the stock market will crash, and people on Wall Street talk to him and say the only reason things are going on Wall Street is so-called normal right now is because they're expecting a Trump victory. But if this demented evil man wins again, Biden, with that bozo clown vice president, America has no future in the next 4 years.
Wow.
We won't make it another 4 years, and I believe it. I sincerely believe it.
Mark,
how much more of an open border can we take?
Big time. Not much. Mark, so you were mentioning a couple of things also. A lot of that was history stuff that I'm thankful for. That's pretty cool. I'm going to have to do some homework. And you're bringing up the neocons and Nixon and these things and how this Goldwater and all that it's that same ideology that's attacking Trump today. It makes me think about how can there even be someone that calls there's people out here calling Trump a scammer, for example. How can that even be in their mentality when the whole establishment and everyone is turning on the man, trying to keep him out, take him out of the ballots? How can anyone actually think that, for example, they'll call him a scammer because he didn't build the wall. And so they're implying that he never meant to finish it. Like, how can anyone think that he's with everything that you're saying, that all these people, Goldwater and the whole thing, how can anyone actually think that he's with them?
That Trump is with the
establishment and all that.
Oh no! Well, first
and
of all,
is a scammer and is scamming us for them.
No, he's not scamming anybody. He did his damnedest to get us a wall, and he had his own rhinos like Romney and some clown. I forgot the senator from Pennsylvania, Toomey, another scoundrel, and a bunch of other rhinos who stood in his way of building the wall. But Trump got the money in 2019 from the Defense Department. He didn't get it through Congress because Congress has too many cowards in it and Democrats who hate America. So Trump did the best he could to build as much wall as he could.
Right.
And the reason these rhinos like Christie, Romney, and the rest of these rats don't like Trump is because, he sounds too racist. And really what's really going on here is any white politician who in any way, shape, or form appeals to the white majority, he must be defeated.
Yep.
That's how these demons think, and that's what their goal is to take our rights away as white, and make us a minority, and ultimately genocide us. Some of the left will admit that openly. Most won't.
That's true. Some do. And to add to what you're saying, to the history you brought about the establishment, Goldwater, and everything, it's really proof that he is a true threat to them, and a threat to that whole thing.
Yeah. Well, in 1964, the Democrats put out an ad with a bomb, an atom bomb going off, and a little girl picking a daisy, saying, "Please don't vote for Goldwater." It was a very controversial ad at the time. And it was meant to instill a fear in the voters that fall that Goldwater was a warmonger. He wanted to win in Vietnam,
right? And
that's why they called him a warmonger. He wanted to stop the Civil Rights Bill, and that's why they said he was a racist. And that's why Romney, his father, that is, and Goldwater and the rest of the rhinos turned on him. They cannot tolerate any politician who, in the least way, supports the white majority. They don't want that. And if they have to, and I hate to say this, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I think the next step for the deep state to take Trump out, because he's overwhelmingly winning at the polls, is to somehow kill him. And I don't mean that. I don't want that to happen. I pray that it doesn't happen. But Tucker Carlson has already mentioned it. Yeah, he said, "Do you fear for your own personal safety?" And I know he's got Secret Service protection, but if you look at some of the other people that have been killed, under controversial circumstances, it's something to think about. I literally pray for President Trump every night that him and his family are protected from Satan on earth, come in the form of left-wingers. They're basically Satan's army on earth. And Trump is the man they want out.
It's looking
in
like
their view. Yeah, he can't be tolerated. The white majority has got to go. That's what these devils want, and that's really behind all their arguments against Trump and the paleo-conservatives. Wow. They don't like us. They don't want us around.
It's really looking like 2024 is going to be nuts.
Yeah.
Listen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, if Trump doesn't win, or God forbid goes to jail, I don't see any future for the country. Democracy will have been destroyed, and there will be no way out of this mess. I don't think Vivek has enough popularity to win this thing, as much as I do like him. And he's not a Christian, and that bothers me. I love his politics.
There's something I don't... yeah, me too. There's something I'm not saying you're not wrong, Mark. That's for sure. This is not me saying that you're not wrong about what you're saying. There's something I don't like about I guess life continues. It might be messed up. It might be a messed up country, but there's something I don't like about it's all over if Trump doesn't win. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, maybe it is the end of America and all that, but I guess maybe I'm just trying to leave a little space there.
I guess the scenario would be as bad as crime is now, it'll be unbearable. The illegal invasion, if it continues, it's going to economically break the country. And it'll be like the Depression of the 1930s. That's what Trump is predicting, and that's what I believe will happen if he is not reelected. It's only a matter of time before this country falls, even if Trump wins. Trump will just be able to put a temporary stop on the insanity. He'll plug the border back up and hopefully be able to deport some of these devils that have gotten over here.
I believe he will do that.
He's only a stopgap if he does win. If he doesn't win, it's going to be scary, man. It's going to be scary. I don't know if you have kids.
No.
But if you have kids, I'd be real worried. Are you a libertarian?
I'm not. I wouldn't call myself that.
Is Hake?
No. He calls them lolbertarians. I don't think he could. He calls them like LOL, like laugh out loud, lolbertarians, like as a pejorative. I would not call Hake a libertarian. That's for sure.
I always call him libertarian. I'm not calling him one. I just was questioning it. Yeah. I call a libertarian a liberal with religious affiliations. I don't know. That's kind of a corny way to put it.
No, but it makes a little sense. Listen, Mark, one last thing I wanted to just touch on here, and then we'll move on. I wanted to make a point. You were saying, where has there ever been a black country that has done all these amazing things that you mentioned? And it was an interesting point you made, because that was the point I was making about for like a religious point. For example, I have someone who called me and they were talking about paganism and stuff, and I'm like, show me the great pagan nation. Show me the great pagan nation that left a mark on the world, like the Western European Christian monarchies of Europe. So just a little side note I wanted to make, and lastly I wanted to touch on with you. What do you think about this? Maybe this is rose-colored glasses. Maybe this is some romanticizing that I've been doing. What do you think about what I say sometimes about blacks and whites in America? That I see it as a little bit of a shame that the wedge is just deeper and deeper, and they grow farther and farther apart when they're just America. Blacks and whites are just totally linked from the beginning of it all, and it should have been a different way. They should have came together. I'm not saying maybe even with their own societies, right, their own neighborhoods and all that, but essentially working together in this country. What do you think about that? Is that just a romantic thing? It should have been that way, no? And if it should be any two races that reconcile in this country, it should be those.
I think the problem is going to be because they were brought here as slaves, and the Constitution said they were only 2/3. They're never going to get over that. They're going to think about that every time they're killing a white man. They don't care. There's never going to be racial peace because they will always remember slavery. They use it as a battering ram to get things like affirmative action, put the guilt trip on a white man, all those kind of things. The 2/3 clause, all that will be used in a way to convict us, quote unquote, in the court of their public opinion. Back in the 50s, the black Muslims had a mock trial of the white man in New York. It was a mock trial. And they said, well, you were guilty of slavery. You were guilty of segregation. You're guilty of all these things, and we find you guilty. Again, it was just a way to instill a hatred against all white people by that group. And that was on, it was something on TV called The Hate That Produced Hate with, what's that guy's name that his father was
Hate That Produced Hate?
Yeah, that's the name of the documentary. It was on CBS. And the guy that did the interview with Chris Wallace's father, he did the show, he did the narrating and the moderator for that, The Hate That Produced Hate, where they had a mock trial in New York City back in the 50s. Putting the white man on trial for his crimes against Negroes. And I just thought it was interesting, and I think if you really want to study the race problem between the two races, that would probably be one of the main reasons why there can never really be racial peace, because the blacks just won't get over the slave issue and the 2/3 clause, among other things, segregation.
Right. And I mean, I'm not saying I don't think you're wrong, Mark. I don't think you're wrong. I just don't want to say never. Maybe it's idealistic. I personally think it's just Christian. I don't want to say never because I've seen miracles happen. I've seen blacks who call the show angry, and just like how you say, they call Jesse, but then they forgive, and it all changes. I've seen literal miracles happen. I talk to blacks who woke up all the time. And so, I don't want to say never. And the reason I say that is because the fat lady hasn't sung. The last chapter hasn't been written. Like everything you're saying about America and white people, I think it's true. America's done and all that. But yet, at the same time and time again, white people, Europeans, the world has told them it's their time and they're down and out, but they've turned it around and they've proved it wrong. I think it's just as likely that maybe there will be a rise of an individual black or a few blacks who lead the way to a different way of life. So I just
we had that.
The chapter's not. The last chapter hasn't been written.
Well, we had that in Marcus Garvey, a man who lived in the 20s, a black man who he was like a black Moses. He wanted to lead his people out of America back to Africa. But the rich corporate influences took him out and put him in jail and deported him.
Well,
they needed. cheap black labor.
Interesting. And I don't even mean that deep. I don't even mean that deep. I mean just a blacks or a few or one that rises and leads the way to just love, something simple like what Jesse's been talking about, just simple things to forgive.
Well,
I see these literal miracles, Mark. They call and they were like hateful, just like you say, and they turn it all around. They stop hating white people. And imagine someone like Jesse leading the way. You know what I mean? Here, the last chapter hasn't been written.
Well, I got to ask you, what do you think of Martin Luther King then? Isn't that what his goal was? His alleged goal?
But it wasn't it? Like it ended up. He ended up just selling the blacks off to the leadership and all that. No.
Well, actually, he was getting money from communist countries.
So it really wasn't about love, and it really wasn't about.
No, I agree. But they would point to him to say, "Well, we had that. You had your chance." I've had blacks tell me that, well, you white people had your chance with Martin Luther King, but you killed him. And they say that.
That was more of the same crap. That was more of the civil rights. That was more of the same crap of the civil rights movement, of the big crime and the big mistake of the. It's more of that. It's more of the civil. If you look at someone really smart said this once. I believe his name Chad Jackson maybe, and he said about Martin Luther King. If you look at Al Sharpton, for example, you might think some conservatives might see Al Sharpton and Martin Luther King as totally different, but it's not true. Al Sharpton is the logical conclusion of what Martin Luther King was about.
Or Jesse Jackson.
Exactly. So it's really not the love thing that I'm talking about. That's just more of the hate stuff, more of the same crap, more of the civil rights crap and all that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, the FBI did an investigation into Martin Luther King back in the early 60s. Robert F. Kennedy was the attorney general, and he allowed J. Edgar Hoover to do this investigation. And they have never, to this day, revealed what the investigation turned up on King. Because after he was assassinated, the mood of the country was so sympathetic that the government agreed with Coretta Scott King, his widow, that won't be released. And, it's like the Epstein...
last thing, Epstein land. Then we spent too much time, but on that, I've heard that about Martin Luther King. It sounds like a little messy. I don't know the details. If it's not confirmed, I'd rather not be gossip. But Epstein, real quick, you think it's a nothing burger or what is that?
A nothing burger with what?
You wanted to talk about Epstein real quick?
Oh,
they're releasing the names.
No, see, they won't release the King tapes, nor will they release, unless they do, the Epstein Island list. I've heard they're going to omit
this week,
a couple
they say.
Of names.
200 names unredacted this week, apparently.
No, they're not going to hide any of them?
I mean, that's just what this article said.
Well, I hope you're right. I've heard that they were supposed to release all the names except for two. And I don't know, obviously, who those two would be. But Clinton's on there, I've heard.
How important is that, you think?
I think the country should know who's a pedophile. I think if these people are pedophiles, they should be known, men or women. You notice Donald Trump wasn't on there. If Donald Trump was on there, they would have released it.
Oh, interesting. Yep. That's a good point. Yep. Mark, man, super interesting. Some homework to do and some food for thought, Mark. I appreciate your call.
Well, I'll let you go. Just remember, if you read, you'll learn. I lived through the 60s. Yes. I saw the difference. When we had segregation, it was beautiful. When there was segregation, you had safe neighborhoods that you could go walk around at night. And you said when the fat lady sings when there's racial peace, that'll be when I could walk down South Central in the middle of the night without being harassed. That's when we'll have racial peace.
Fair enough. N-word passes for all people so that we can maintain the union.
God bless you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. Call me again.
I will. Bye.
I decree N-word passes for all so that we may maintain the union for another 100 years. I think he called me Mr. Hake, but I know he meant anchor baby. I know he would have corrected himself if I let him. Appreciate your call, Mark. Spent a little time there. My apologies. It's super fascinating, but, I'll give the same love to Frederick out of Los Angeles, California. Thank you for your call, sir. You're on the air.
What's going on, Nick? Hey. I did my homework, man.
Thank you for doing. I'm sweating, but go ahead.
You already know. I heard you try to make the correction. You might have overspoke. We're not.
Okay, Frederick's talking about. Say again.
I said, you saying it's the essence that we're doing the abortion that we're dying, but us
Is the what that was doing the abortion?
By 30%. Us increasing by 30% since 2000 is not the message you were trying to push. It was like we're not replicating or not like our birth rate is low or something like you were saying. But
the birth rate. I mean, wait, you're saying the birth rate's not low? Here's one thing I said to Frederick yesterday, folks, if you don't remember. I was talking to him. We were talking about the birth rates, black people, and many things, okay? And I said, how about, because I was talking about how whites are becoming extinct, like how I was learning in Patrick Buchanan's book, Death of the West, and how if you look at the numbers, there's literally less white people. Like there's less of them and less of them and less of them. And I looked at the birth rate of blacks, and it's worse than whites. And so I told Frederick, well, how about you go find out how many blacks, like the number of blacks in America, maybe like some time ago, and compare it to today, there's probably less.
34.2 in 1997, and now it's 40.1.
Okay.
And that's an increase of 12.8 to 14.1%.
And on that,
30% increase.
And on that, Frederick, you got me. Like on that, that number is literally bigger than the former number. That's just right. True. But hey, Frederick, hold on. Yeah. But hold on. Pump the brakes a second here. That's not fair. What about immigration? What about it? How much of that is immigration? How much of that is fudging of the numbers?
Immigration, they said 4.5 of it was natural newborn American-born citizens from immigrants that came.
But even that term, natural-born citizen, come on, man. That's a term that's totally fake.
Natural-born
anchor babies get called that.
I mean,
so anchor baby Africans can get called natural-born citizens and then go start having a bunch of blacks.
Immigrants that moved here legally and became citizens have kids. There was 4.8 million of those in the last 20 years or something like that. It was showing the increase of the people, of the immigrants having kids here, and that was part of the increase. They got counted also.
Fair enough.
I'm not saying.
But what about these birth rate stuff? You're telling me this birth rate stuff is not real? They're below replacement rate.
Don't pay attention to that. That's what they want.
But just like they have the same thing. And of course, these abortion rates. You're going to tell me that's a lie too? These crazy abortion rates? The black women are killing these babies, man. And so again,
the women, the women is voting for that. They want that.
Exactly. So that's happening.
Abortion is like
happening.
Almost like not having sex at night. Like I wouldn't have had a kid if I didn't have sex at night. Well, if I did, I'd take a plan B, or if we go to abortion, they just put it out of their mind like, well, it's just like a night I didn't have sex or whatever.
Okay, but look,
push it and they're going to put it on the ballot.
Not having sex and abortion still doesn't create a black child, right? It still is a negative to the birth rate. And look, my point being is this: you want to nitpick on. Go ahead.
The morality of the issue on the ballot. If you're going to go pro-life, you're going to lose an election because Republicans ain't going to vote pro-life.
Okay, that's a different thing. That's a different thing. That's like political strategy.
Okay,
you want to jump to another thing? We can get to that. Political strategy and how to win elections and should abortion be on the ballot. That's a different topic. Wait, no. Don't filibuster me. That's a different topic. We can get into that. Strategies and elections and abortion being on the ballot. But you came with this number, and that may be right. That's fine. The second number you gave me is bigger. But I'd like to point this out to the people. Isn't it funny that you want to nitpick on this number here? When you were seeing blacks are not good, they're dying, fertility rates are low, they're aborting them. You're saying, well, abortion is just also not having sex. Well, hey, guess what? Both result in not a black baby being born. So why nitpick about that? And fight me on this when we both know that blacks are dying. Why? And you want to talk about nonsense? Blacks are dying.
I'm saying we're not dying. We're not going extinct. And even if we grow in a percentage while y'all letting all of these immigrants, we're still growing as a percentage. The number of Americans are growing because y'all letting in all of these immigrants. We're not decreasing in percentage. We're actually growing with the immigrants you're letting in.
What?
We're growing from. Yes, we're growing from like 12.
So the blacks are growing with the immigrants. I know, but you're saying the blacks are growing with the immigrants.
The percentage
I understood you. I heard you.
You understand?
No, I heard you. But I want to say this because you seem so glib on stats and you're trusting this crap and you're trusting the TV, Nick. But then you're going to trust this stat that says blacks are growing with immigrants. It's like, wait a second. So wait. before the immigrants, blacks are dying, fertility rate. Suddenly immigrants are coming in, and it's like, wait, all of a sudden blacks are growing with the immigrants? Could it be the numbers are fudged because it's a bunch of black immigrants? Like, I don't understand how you trust that.
No, I'm saying we're not seeing the proof that blacks are going extinct anywhere. It's growing in the South from 52% to
What about all
56%.
these black so-called? They were black. They were supposed to be black neighborhoods in California. You're in California, man. Tell me, you know better than me. You know better than me. You've spent more years in California. Tell me how many neighborhoods have become totally Mexican.
I don't know. I don't know the number to that. I'm not going to
Come on, the Mexicans are totally taking over. Pushing the blacks out. The blacks themselves talk about this. The blacks themselves complain about this.
Mexico.
In fact, if I remember,
used to be Mexico, Nick. They're not taking
that's
over.
A different topic. You want to jump around? That's some strange communist tactics.
Like they're taking over.
No. Stay in reality. Here, let me break it down for the folks and for you. No. Don't filibuster. No. Frederick, let's stay on one thing at a time. I'm not. You want to say? Yeah, you're saying California was Mexico. Nick is not a response to. There are neighborhoods in California, Southern California, that were mostly black, and then they now are mostly Mexican thanks to immigration. Saying California was Mexico, Nick, is not a response to that, man. That's a jump to another topic. That's a communist move.
Forced immigration. No.
So you're telling me these neighborhoods didn't become? Look, the blacks themselves complain. I'm trying to find the clip for you.
Gentrification is the only thing how blacks lost their neighborhoods. They sold their houses for the money because they went up in value because they couldn't afford the property taxes on their own house that didn't cost that much.
That's still a different thing, not a response to what I'm talking about.
I'm explaining how Mexicans had the money to buy it. It wasn't broke Mexicans coming in replacing these black residents.
Okay.
There were rich Mexicans coming in buying these expensive houses.
I didn't know that.
There's no poor Mexicans buying expensive houses and kicking blacks out of. Now Compton to buy a house in these Black Baldwin Hills, $1 million.
I didn't know that.
They didn't have $1 million back then, but now you drive up the cost of the house, and then the Mexicans going to buy it. Of course,
that's super interesting.
They're not fucking replacing us; they buying us out. That's why the South is growing. That's why Florida and Texas are the most populated southern states.
No, that's super interesting. Actually, I didn't know that, so thanks. But hold on. That still doesn't quite answer this because it's like, sure, the Mexican immigrants aren't coming in and buying homes. They don't really need to do that to take over. They just got to keep having babies and they keep renting. You don't need to buy the homes to take over an area. Let's be real, man. That's and here and again, I keep trying. I can't. Hold on. I've been trying to say this point the last few times. Let me just get this out, and then you can say this. I've been trying to say this a few times. There's this. We did this recently on the Jesse Lee Peterson show, where black people in California, I believe they were complaining to. Was it that? What's that woman? The Wicked Witch of the West. What's her name? Wicked Witch of the West. Maxine Waters, I believe. They were complaining to Maxine, or maybe someone else, but I know for sure we did this on the Jesse Lee Peterson show, where black people were at a city hall or something, and they were all up in arms, and they were saying, and they were mad that the Mexicans were replacing them. So what are you going to say about that?
I didn't see that. I don't know what you're talking about. Probably as a minority, because they don't need to ask the blacks what they think, or they just go to the Hispanics because they're a larger minority group. So when whites need to know, like, what can we do for the minority, they just go to the Mexicans now because they outnumber us as a minority. We're a smaller minority than Hispanics in the United States. That's no big deal because y'all purposely let them in like that.
And that's a mess, man. But look, it just seems like you want to fight me on a. It just seems like you want to nitpick on this.
And y'all knew they had 8, 9 Mexicans living in that house, but y'all rent them in the apartment regardless of what the code said. Yeah, and then you raise up the black rent next door, knowing we ain't gonna have.
And they get pushed out, and they have less babies. The women abort them. So you agree with me? It's not looking good.
No,
and yet you want to focus on some stat. You want to focus on some stat to get a one up on me, and who loses here? Black people.
No, because you don't know what you're preaching. Don't be pushing out.
No, I don't think you know.
No, you saying we going extinct, and I'll show you a 30% increase. Now I'm talking about
dubious what you brought up, man. Dubious, very, very dubious. And actually, it was. How come it jumped? You were saying like 14. Now it's 30. But I'm just saying dubious. What? Dubious. That's all I got to say.
14.1. What you saying? 30%.
You said 30. You went from 14 to 30.
No, we're at 14.1%
exactly.
Black
increase.
Americans, but it's a 30% increase.
Understood.
I never
My
said
bad.
14%. We at 14.1 from 12.8. That's a 30% increase.
Interesting stuff,
But
man.
no,
I mean,
what I was saying, America is only 247 years old. So, therefore, this is a great place. They didn't even have hot water back in them Christian times when you talking about it was great back in the Roman Celtic days.
nobody had. What are you talking about? Romans had water.
Right here.
Romans had water. What are you talking about?
They didn't have running hot.
They had running. They had aqueducts. They had aqueducts
back when the British was in the swamp.
Wait, are you saying? Are you seriously criticizing the Romans for not having like running tap water? Like nobody did. You're talking about like industrial. You're talking about like pipes in a city. Yeah, that came like way after. The Romans had aqueducts though.
No, this is the fruit.
The Romans, those Christians, they didn't even have iPads. You idiot! That time wasn't cool. Like that's a stupid point.
Right here.
That's a
stupid for blacks to inherit. This is the heaven that blacks like.
I don't want to misunderstand you, but is that essentially what you were saying, Nick? Are you saying, Nick, those dumb Christians didn't even have iPhones?
That's what I'm saying. This is we about to go international.
I've been repeating that to myself ever since you said it. I want. This sounds cool. I want to go international. It sounds cool.
Look, the blacks used to be having a kingdom when
we going international.
The Bible just picks up at the end of the Pharaoh's kingdom when Moses, all this bull, whatever. But the Pharaohs had the black kingdom, and we built like libraries and universities and all of this. You ought to read about it, man. It came from up.
No,
you ought to read about.
There's stuff you say that's interesting, Frederick. That's no lie.
Near Ethiopia.
No, there's stuff you say that's interesting, and I'm sure facts too. Don't lie, but dude, I'm not wrong about this, man. Also, I want to go international too. We going internet. I like that. Yo, Frederick, since I got you, my bad, man. I keep talking over you.
No, you all good. You all good.
Okay, since I got you, I came across an interesting little, what was it? I came across an interesting little story on Cornel West. What was it? Do you mind if I bring him up?
Yeah, he ain't got enough votes. I mean, I like the guy, but I'm looking for somebody that's like, we're going to get somebody in there eventually that wakes up and be like, look, you know what? All these voting for the wall and these guys' agenda. What about our agenda? What about our money? What about our city?
Who's our? Who's us? When you're saying our, who are you talking about?
America.
The border is for us. The border, fixing immigration at the border is us. It will help all Americans.
Going to war
and black. It will help black Americans. Did you know that?
Nah, they ain't gave us no reparations.
Whoa, wait.
Talking about. They ain't gonna quit crying.
Yes or no? Will the wall? Yes or no? Will fixing immigration and building a wall help black Americans? Be positive for them.
Building a wall help black Americans.
Yeah, will building a wall and fixing immigration be a positive, net positive for black Americans?
I say no.
Really? Dude, that'll help everybody, including blacks. Why do you say no?
No.
But they're literally getting pushed out of their neighborhoods and they're complaining about it.
Yeah, because once the wall go up and they get all that technology, oh my goodness. You think drugs are bad now, and the price is going to skyrocket, and everybody's going to be trying to get a hold of them and sell them to these people because it's going to be, oh my God, they're shutting down. They paying $1,000 a gram for fentanyl.
You might not be wrong, man. We have it
all over the head because it's such a small supply. I'm just saying that's just a backlash to what you really want. But
no, you might not be wrong about that. The American sickness with drugs. It's strange.
Yeah.
I was in Mexico, and don't get me wrong, those people drink way too much. Don't get me wrong, they got problems with alcohol. But I went into a Mexican pharmacy, and, well, I looked it up afterwards because I wondered, wait, are you allowed to just buy, like, over-the-counter, like, painkillers and stuff? And although you really can't, it is illegal in a sense. I looked it up. It's quite common. You can. Yet I didn't really hear or see anything about like a bunch of Mexican drug addicts. No, maybe they're drunk, but it seems like this drug stuff is an American sickness, and you might not be wrong about what you're saying.
Yeah, I think they reported more. Somebody passed out down there, OD, just dig a hole. But at the same time, yeah, them narcos, you can go in there and buy them like Advil, and they be zany, they can be lower tab. It can be anything, and bring them right back. It's all about getting caught. That's what that free will. You can do it, but are you going to feel the consequences?
Fascinating. Cornell West, real quick, you down? What do you think about what he said about Claudine Gay? You know, Harvard. He said he's basically defending her. He said, "How sad but predictable that the same figures and forces enabling the ethnic cleansing and genocidal attacks on the Palestinians in Gaza push out the first black woman president of Harvard. The racism against both Palestinians and black people is undeniable and despicable. Big money dictates university policy. Raw power dictates foreign policy. Moral bankruptcy of American education." I saw Mike Cernovich retweeted this, says, "Get this man on every state ballot." What do you think about all this?
She's going to sue Harvard, first of all, because I don't think that they proved that she plagiarized anything. So since the attacks that she got from Harvard, she's building her case, and you'll see her on the news, and it'll be one of those, somebody getting sued like Rudy, and nobody will pay no attention to it, but they're in the headlines, it looked like, she's bad. That's what she get. And she's getting harassed more than anything. She resigned on her own. She didn't get fired.
Oh.
She probably didn't have to leave. She left because of the racism. You know what it is, but it's exposing it. It's just building more white guilt. We need white guilt. There's some real white people in power that's paying attention, and they like, this is just crazy what's going on here in America.
Crazy, I got to agree. On that, Frederick, I got to say we do agree.
All right, man. You have a good one.
Call me again, Frederick. Appreciate it.
Yep, for sure.
Right on. Thanks you, callers, for calling my show. I'm having fun. It's been a fun day. We're doing our thing, talking about the Britons, talking about this and that. What are you guys saying in the chat, huh? I haven't been looking at you. What are you guys up to, huh? Moon Cricket Stinks with the super chat. Thank you, sir. Says, British Empire goes from owning a third of the world to becoming third world. Amazing. Truly amazing. I got to agree. DJ 2020, I see you there in Rumble. My supporter. What are you up to? What are you talking about, man? The problem with power gained by the 1871 Federal United States Corporation, citizen slave of the 14th. Think we democratic, not to be confused with the United States. Sounds like you're also... natural birthrights have nothing to do with citizen. You don't know. Oh, DJ 2020, are you responding to Frederick? Yeah, I think that's what you're responding to, right? Because the stats Frederick is talking about, they're using these terms like natural citizen, naturalized and all that. We as we come to know on this show, folks, that doesn't always mean an American born here. Let's be real. Citizen is the idea. One is given a right. You don't know ish, commie Frederica, says DJ 2020. Who is who to give a right? Natural rights are given, not an agency who governmental. The sheeple. So far gone, we the people. So true, DJ 2020. Thank you. Right on. He make a few points, says DJ 2020. Fair enough. Right on, folks. What are you saying in the chat, YouTube? Before I move on here. Yeah, we've had some good shows, Jerry. Right on. I've never seen that name, Jerry Morales. Some good shows on the Bond Network today. Don't you definitely... Man, Joel killed it, man, on the Hake Report. Let's be real. Definitely go watch it. What shall we do now? Shall I talk about my Canada? My darling Canada. You know, I have a place in my heart for Canada. I am the American anchor baby, but I grew up in Canada too, somewhat. A part of my life. And I have a place in my heart. I'm an immigrant and a guest in all places, yet I feel a kinship to y'all. And there's a place in my heart to the Canadians. Yes, you guys down here will hear me say bud and hoser, and I seem so Canadian to y'all, but up there I was in some ways an immigrant. But I've never felt, I don't let myself feel like that. I don't ever let myself feel like some kind of, oh, I don't belong, whatever. I know my place, and I'm thankful. And that is why I'm showing my gratitude to America and Canada. And my darling Canada, should I talk about Canada? Stuff going on with Canada. There's also something going on with dating. Something interesting I saw with dating. I'll leave that for tomorrow, huh? Canada. I'm seeing something I thought I only saw in Europe. I almost couldn't believe it. Look at this. Welcome to Canada. Look at this. I would see these signs in European, like in memes, or, you know, I'm reading the news and stuff, and I'm seeing these images appear in European countries that are suffering from this just ridiculous immigration from African countries, Muslim countries, and these people are not European. They're not English. They're not Italian. They're just not. And it's very evident in their ways. And taking a crap on the streets, on the beaches on the streets of London and all that it's not European, okay? Look, that's not civilized. Look, apparently they do it enough. And this is not me. I'm not just assuming this. I'm not just being like, these are just savages, and I'm just saying that. No. This is the governments of these countries. They're maybe not saying it in my words, but they are putting up these signs because they're what does a state do or a government do when they're challenged with a public issue? Well, one thing you do is you put up signs. You educate the populace. That's something the government does. And here is their education campaign. Beaches are not toilets. Don't do it here. Now, in the Canada I grew up in, I never needed such a sign to educate me on this. It sounds like they're trying to educate another kind of person that has entered Canada. Stop open defecation. You can see the Canada sign down here. And this isn't another language. It sounds like this, it looks like this is a targeted ad, a targeted campaign. Sure, it's in English, but I don't know what language that is. 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎. It sounds, I don't know, it sounds African or something. It's reminding me of the South African anthem for some reason. How's it go? 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎. It kind of, I forget how it goes. I don't know what language this is, but it's not English, okay? And I thought this was only happening in Europe, but it's bad. No, not me, Canada. What's happening? They're crapping on the streets. I mean, it reminds me, I've had an interesting experience in Canada. It's almost shocking sometimes when you revisit it, that this is happening to a country. Because I literally remember I was a kid in school, and we had diversity. There was different types of people in Canada that I grew up with in school, but I remember a certain time. What was it? I must have been in grade 5 or grade 6. When it feels like they opened up the floodgates. Suddenly, my classmates were all different. Suddenly, I had all sorts of classmates. And they were very different. They were very foreign. They didn't speak the language. They were all covered up. Not that I hadn't seen a hijab before, but this is the first time I saw stuff like niqabs and stuff, where they were you could only see the eyes. And I was shocked. It was really a shock. And you know, we did what kids do. We called them Pakis, okay? We were kids, okay? They weren't all Pakistani. It was just what we called them. And it's just what happens, okay? I didn't even hate them, okay? At that age, actually, I had a little bit of a thing inside of when I heard people call them Pakis. I was like, don't call them that. Don't call them Paki. That's not right. They're not Pakistani. I had a little thing inside, but that's what the kids did, and I may have said it sometimes. I never hated them, though. Many of them even became friends. The ones that spoke English and weren't that foreign, because it was so foreign. How do I explain this to you? It felt like the floodgates open. You got to understand how shocking that is. Like that's happening to a populace, to a country, where it just changes so fast. And then I've mentioned this before. I mean, I came to America in 2019. I went back to visit just 2 years later, Square One, Mississauga, where I grew up. It's a city near Toronto. And it's like, what is this place? I couldn't even remember it in just 2 years. square one, Mississauga. It was like I was in another country. So yeah, that's happening. It's incredible. I mean, but what can you say about Canada, right? Liberal Canada. They got the tampons in the bathrooms, in the men's washrooms. Liberal Canada. They turned away from Christianity. The French, they didn't quite like the Catholics, which may not be totally unfounded. The Catholics may be a little bit too hard sometimes in their ways. I'll side with them when they stop the child sacrifices and all that. That being said, the Catholics themselves, they too had their own militants. And that militants, by way of sword, may have left some bad blood with some people. You got to understand it. But hey, they turned. Things happened. Now they got tampons in the bathrooms. I mean, what can I say about my Canada? He's an anchor baby from Canada. I didn't know it could get that bad so fast. And it just seems like it's getting worse. It's this loss of their mandate from heaven, their faith, who they were. Maybe I'm rambling on things I don't totally understand, but I feel like that's somewhat right. And that's what this emptiness. We're seeing the fruits of that emptiness. Sometimes in stats like the birth rate and in other ways. Shout out to Brampton, though, says Anonymous in the chat. Shout out Brampton, a.k.a. Browntown. That's what we called it growing up, Browntown. Brampton, Ontario. We called it Browntown growing up. And, yeah, And I know there's a lot of Indian Canadian patriots. I met them. In fact, I even saw them out there protesting with the truckers. I seen them. Maybe even Arabs too. And Muslims and all that. Don't get me wrong. But it's shocking. And it's just so shocking. And Nick just says everyone sacrifices children. Hey, Kevin Howe, I'm also joking sometimes. I'm not an expert. You're always quite smart in my chat, Kevin Howe. Thank you. No, I shouldn't be slandering all pagans, right? They're not all child sacrificers, right? Just these, what do you call them? Mesoamerican, aka proto-Mexican, pre-Mexican Hispanics. They're pretty violent and child sacrificing. So, apologies, Kevin Howe. But dang, Canada, my Canada. I came across this interesting clip. Now, I'm not a medical expert, and I don't know what the heck this guy's talking about. I cannot confirm or deny anything he's talking about here, but it's about Canada. And I thought it was quite fascinating. I think they swear once or twice. My apologies. The sun is still up, folks.
One that I saw 2 days ago.
Oh, no. The echo. How do I fix this echo? I forgot about this. I think I can fix it. Hold on.
And I didn't even send it to you because I'm like, I have to talk with you about this. Is Canada's overall life expectancy.
I don't know how to fix this echo, but this guy is talking about an interesting stat that's coming out of Canada. Okay, I'll just read these captions here. Thank you, whoever made this video with the captions. So this guy is a comedian, I believe. He's on the Joe Rogan's podcast here. He's talking about a stat that came out of Canada, a big one that he saw 2 days ago. And he's like, I have to talk about this because the stat is crazy. The stat that's coming, it's about Canada's overall life expectancy. Okay? And he's talking about this stat that's got him going crazy. He says this might be the craziest statistic in the world right now. Now, I can't confirm that. I don't know what this really means, but he's saying, he's asking Joe Rogan if he's seen this stat, right? Since 1930, okay? Since 1930, the life expectancy goes up and up and up, just like how this guy's hand is going, okay? Okay? Because of, I don't know, he says, he surmises because of, technology and you effing live longer and, because of effing technology and medicine. And then 2020 hits and suddenly it levels and starts plummeting. It starts to go down. Unprecedented, apparently, when you ask statisticians or whatever, statistics people. Apparently, this is just unprecedented. Down 2.5 years, 2020 hits, overall life expectancy in Canada, unheard of apparently, starts going down, unprecedented. So they start wondering, well, what could that possibly be from? Joe Rogan says, I don't know, Tony. This guy's name is Tony, apparently. Weird, so strange, they say. Oh, so strange, what could it be? Not like there was a gigantic medical intervention during this time. And Booster, 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 they say. And you're not allowed to talk about it. You're a conspiracy theorist and all that. And you guys know me. You guys know my show. I don't talk about, I try to stay away from things I don't know and understand. And I'm not, and I've spoken freely about the questions people have about that time and this medical intervention in 2020. But I'm honest when I say I don't really know. It is strange that you're not allowed to ask the questions, though. What is this? Medical misinformation, they'll say. They'll even censor you and all that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here trying to make any claims about it, YouTube. I'm really not. I'm honestly not. I'll be open and say it's strange that you guys want to censor this stuff, but hey, I'll play ball. But hey, if what this Tony guy's talking about, it's an interesting stat. Don't you agree? It's an interesting stat. Canada's overall life. My Canada. What's happening in my Canada? Side of reality and facts is so against the narrative that the liberals were correct that they were willing to ignore excess deaths, says Joe Rogan. They're willing to ignore an increase in all-cause mortality. That's shocking that they're willing to ignore it. The trust the science people, says Joe Rogan. I mean, isn't that some food for thought, at least? I'm a guy that's okay with questions. It's like Trump. He had questions about the election. And it's one thing to make I get it, YouTube. I get it. It's one thing to make a claim about the 2010 election. Far be it from me to do that. The investigations were never done. But they say it's an insurrection that the man did, Trump. But he simply had a question. He disagreed. You're allowed, that's not against the law. That's not an insurrection. The man had a question. He's like, I personally don't agree. I don't agree that that's how it went down. And let's say they do the counts, they do investigation, and they find out, hey, the election was on the up and up. Guess what? Trump is still allowed to say, I disagree. Because remember, this is what they were trying to say about him, that, well, the facts are in, it was on the up and up. And then for him to continue to say it wasn't is, no, blah, blah, blah. It's all these things. It's inciting of violence because you're going to make people go crazy. Look at all your supporters. They believe you. It's your responsibility. No. Even if everything came in and it is on the up and up, which I have no reason to believe it wasn't. I have my questions, but hey. Trump is still allowed to disagree and have his question. Maybe you guys will think he's crazy. Maybe you'll think he's wrong. But he's still allowed to say, guess what? I disagree with the results. You know, Trump saying this. He's still allowed to disagree with the results. You can't have questions? What the? Questions. Sounds American to me, to have questions. So, Bill, everything good?
Yeah, I heard you were having some kind of...
Oh,
you got... Oh, yeah.
I was playing some video from here, and I forget what you told me about how to fix that echo. It's not a technical thing. This is your host just being dumb. If only I follow Bill's instructions to the T, nothing would go wrong in life. He's laughing, but if I could, like for example, the crackling on the Jesse Lee Peterson show earlier, that wasn't because something's wrong and your money hasn't gone to a good place. We did not follow Bill's instructions to a T, and we suffered. Why was it echoing? So I played a clip from Shall We Do This Live, folks? Thank you. So that tomorrow's show, I may play content. So check it out, Bill. I play a clip here. You know how I do. I unmute Studio 8, and it's echoing. It's doubled. You hear that?
Just do everything you can.
She knows.
You feel me? You seen that?
Is that going on? Okay, that's going on air like that.
Yeah, it's going on air like that. I think. In my ear, it's like that. Billy. So Billy's on that, and he'll tell me.
Oh, wait. Play it again.
Oh, you want me to play it again? Cool. Oh, you fixed it.
You really have to be that immature?
You fixed it. Yeah, so I forgot that setting, huh? My bad.
It's going all the way through and come back around.
Gotcha. You know, since I have this clip, I mean, in the last few minutes of the show, you know what I've been... Oh, were you trying to tell me something? In the last few minutes, you know, this is wholesome, guys. This is something I found.
Does it say right?
There's a little bit of a trend on TikTok and the social medias that there's a trend where it's these families and they do content all together. They get together and they just make content. They just make funny content together. I think it's pretty wholesome, okay? And they're actually pretty funny. You might think it's you might think it's like I don't know. I just think, like, for example, this channel, Saucy TV. It's just a family, and yeah, it's like they're just doing these skits, and you might think the skits are dumb. Like, okay, look, that wasn't real. Like, they're just acting, right? They're acting like it's real, but it's obviously not. And I know that content is kind of tiresome, where people are like acting out these skits like as if it's real, and it's just like, this is just so fake. But these are actually kind of funny, and it's wholesome, and it's families. And there's another family on TikTok that's doing similar things. And it feels like this is like wholesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if we're going to have content, this is a nice trend in my opinion.
Mom, what have you been doing? You're looking beefy. You're looking buff.
Beefy?
That's Mom. Obviously, she's not really mad. They're just acting.
So I can kick your ass, you little shit.
They also swear. There's maybe not totally wholesome. They also have a bunch of swearing. But I'm telling you, it's kind of funny and it's kind of wholesome. Come on! I'm trying to find one that I saw. Like here, this one, where they're pranking this woman.
She's doing everything she can not to look,
She
right?
knows where you do it. She's looking.
You really have to be that immature? Like, that's like so incredibly childish.
You know what? You know what? You're right.
Dad joke. You know what? You're right.
This is a very professional operation here. That's not nice.
And then the kids, their response is it's not angry, it's totally funny. Like this Karen, that's horrible. I can't believe I said the K word. I can't believe I said the K word. My apologies. I'm using the K word because that's what these people called her. They said this is a Karen. And you see the kids, his sons, they're not like, whatever bitch and blah blah blah. They're like, that's not nice. It seems like kind of square and wholesome, and I don't know about you folks, but out of all the trends in social media, I like it. All right, folks, that's American Anchor Baby. That's the show. I do appreciate all your calls. Let me check and make sure these we did all the super chats and all the things here. Oh, Lily Poo with the Rumble rant. Thank you so much. Says, we have to stop using the language that America is a democracy. We must start calling us what we are, a constitutional republic. Words matter. I agree, Lily Poo. I agree with Cassius Dio in 209 AD. He saw that the Britons in the swamp were democratic and primitive. And we're not like that. We're a republic. I agree with you, Lily Poo. Right on. And that's everything, folks. Join me again tomorrow, Thursday, for more American Anchor Baby at noon. You got another episode of Joel, by the way. He's going all week. Not Friday, though. People are wondering, wait, no Joel Friday on a Friday? Kind of a missed opportunity. But the man's busy, okay? You got it Monday through Thursday now. Pretty nice. You got me tomorrow at 12. Hopefully the Hake Report's back. We'll see. Wishing him well. The Hake Report is resting up. Jesse Lee Peterson, Bible Thumper Thursday. We love it. And what can I say, folks? That's it from me. Much appreciated. American Anchor Baby. Shall we say out? Yes.